what's it going to cost to break a mortgage? You're like less than 6 months into. So it was like $16,000. So it's like pay $16,000 to get $9,000 in savings, right?
Does it feel like a win after you get kicked in the ball and the pain goes away? Does that feel better?
Welcome to the Tom Storey Show with Steve Karrasch and Tom Storey, where we discuss everything real estate or whatever else is on our minds.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Tom Storey Show. Steve, happy Mother's Day to the mother in your house, to the mother in my house, to my mother, to your... Did you forget about Mother's Day, Steve?
I'm going to make a note in my computer right now.
Well, good thing we're recording this a few days before it goes live, that you have time to not look like an absolute idiot.
I am going by the salon on the way home.
To say happy Mother's Day to my mother, who I know listens to the show. Steve, does your mom listen to the podcast?
I hope not. I hope not. I don't know.
All right. Well, everybody out there, hug your mom today. Give them a big high five and say thank you for bringing me into this world. Whether they were the mother that gave birth to you or the mother that brought you up in this world, whatever it was, say thank you to your mom out there. Thanks to all the amazing moms, and welcome back to the Tom Storey Show. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and like this episode. And if you're listening on the audio platforms, hope you're having a wonderful day. Steve, I want to give a shout out. Or you can give, you give your shout out first. So we're recording this right after Canucks had their big comeback win. There'll be one other game that has happened, I think maybe one or two games since we record this. So you could be in a different mood by the time this episode comes out. But how you feeling about your team?
Well, I did the very Vancouver thing. So at the 13 minutes or 10 minutes or something, whatever it was. No, 7 minutes into the third when they were down 4-2, I shut it off and I watched the Tom Brady roast,
which was funny, by the way.
Which had its highs and lows for sure. And then right when it was ending, I was like, I'm going to Google how bad it really got. And then I was like, turns out I should never watch Canucks games because they had a great season. Haven't watched all season. And then I shut it off and they score 3 goals within 5 minutes of me shutting it off. So I am the curse.
You can't watch anymore. You're bad luck if you watch. Mm-hmm. That's how it works.
But I own a jersey and a hat. So here we go.
I will say you're a bit of a bandwagoner, eh? Because I didn't think you cared about hockey until the last 3 weeks.
I mean, I haven't bought a jersey since 2011 or whatever. So like, this is the old one with like the Vancouver still across the top. So trust me, it's this. I dusted this off.
Is that a new hat though?
Nope.
That's a 10-year-old hat.
Oh, at least 10 years old. Yeah.
You can tell you've never worn it because it looks new.
I mean, I haven't worn it in 6 or 7 years.
Also, just before we get started for all of the fun real estate topics we have today, because this is going to be a second catch-up episode in a row, we just had too much to talk about, and I think Steve just keeps pissing off our guests, and they cancel on us. Yeah.
It can happen.
I want to shout out, we talk about them, you guys hear about them, but Realty Ninja, our sponsor, I'd say so far, we have very limited experience with sponsors, I'd say, Steve, but they've just been the absolute best to work with. They let us do whatever we want. They don't tell us anything. They give us 0 notes. They're just like, you guys record the show. And actually, we'd like to see this person on the show. And they're like, people are like, yeah, we should have them on. Great advice. Thank you. So,
yeah. No, they've been fantastic. I actually asked them if they wanted to opt out of a couple of upcoming, and they were like, no, let's do it. I was like, all right.
Yeah. Let's do it. Shout out to them. Okay. So let's get into it. At the end of last episode, we hinted that I may have been... my whereabouts were unknown. And that episode was recorded in advance before I went on vacation. I am back now. It wasn't so much a vacation as it was a glorified work trip. But I know you may have some questions for me about it and where I went. And I've got some opinions on different European cities and which ones are now my favorite and what this trip would have cost if it wasn't a subsidized work trip.
Okay, let's see how much you would have wasted if Roy LePage didn't help you out.
Okay, so first of all, I was in Barcelona for 4 nights, 5 days. I feel very lucky that I got to go on this trip. This has been the 5th year in a row that our team is ranked in the top group for the Royal LePage company across Canada, and they do these trips. Now, you still have to pay for these trips, but it is like highly subsidized. It's basically you show up, you have an agenda, they plan everything. It's very, very well done. Like, credit to them. But what we've started to do with these trips is we'll actually go somewhere else a little bit early to kind of prep yourself for this trip. So we'll go with a smaller group beforehand. So we actually we flew into Marseille in France and then stayed in a very nice boutique hotel in Provence. I'm not a wine person, by the way. I had no idea what I was doing, but went to all these nice wineries, did these tours. And what I found out is the area that we were in was mostly rosé. Like these wineries were like 5% of their wine was maybe red wine, mostly rosé and white. And it was great. It was a lot of fun. And as we do this as real estate agents, when you're traveling outside your market, when you're walking down the street, like I couldn't believe how many real estate offices there was in the downtown. So I'd walk up to the window and be like, okay, like this is really nice. Like, what does it cost to live here? And I've seen people say on this channel, like, I'm just going to sell my property. I'm going to move to France. Well,
I'm moving to the south of France.
You're not moving
cheaper in the south of France.
You're not moving to the south of France because it's like, again, it may have just been the luxury stuff in the windows. I'm aware of that, but like 3 million euros for this beautiful, like, I don't know where they're finding these places in France that are $250,000. You must be in the middle of absolutely nowhere with no running water. Because it ain't cheaper.
Yeah, I can find you a really nice place in Canada for $250,000 as well. Yeah. Right? It's just, I mean, if you're just like, hey, it's just Canada, it's all the same. So what did you find? It was super expensive in comparison. Expensive. Like, did you do the conversion like Canadian dollars? Like,
well, what's the euro like? 1.5? I don't know. Our dollar's not great right now. Either way, it was extremely expensive, and I'm aware that it may have been just the one specific area I was in France, but I couldn't believe the prices. It was gorgeous. Like the countrysides, everything like was amazing. Food was great. People were nice, actually really nice. I've heard rumors that French people are a little rough around the edges. Everyone was really nice. Maybe because we stayed, maybe it was just the staff in the hotel that was nice because we were paying them. Then we went to Barcelona, and I'll tell you, Steve, that I went to Barcelona 10 years ago, a very different trip where I was like staying in hostels and went with a few friends and like that kind of Euro trip thing. Barcelona might be my favorite city I've ever been to. It's like I would spend way more time there. I would go there for a month in the summer.
Because of its cheap housing, right?
Well, it's not cheap either, but it is way cheaper. Like we were looking in like, the good areas there, you could get like a 3-bedroom flat for like 650,000 euros. So like, what's that, 800 or 900 Canadian?
You get that 2-hour lunch break every day.
Yeah, the siesta. Take a little nap. That's the kind of lifestyle I'm looking for. So it was relatively cheaper than where I was in France, that for sure. But it's not that much cheaper, and I'm not really sure what the process would be like about getting a mortgage there. I don't think it's simple.
Yeah. Well, isn't Europe mostly interest-only mortgages?
I actually don't know. I'm not sure.
I know the UK is mostly interest-only. So, I mean, everybody that whines here about our long amortizations, they have a infinite amortization. They have interest-only loans on their properties.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. We should, we really should get somebody on from
who knows what they're talking about.
Well, yeah, but from these other markets. But anyways, so I was away. It was an expensive trip. I will be honest with you about that. It was not cheap, but we did lots of nice things.
So you drink an old fashioned every once in a while. What's an old fashioned in Barcelona versus an old fashioned in downtown Toronto?
Oh, probably about the same.
Really?
Like after the conversion, I think it was like, now keep in mind, I'm ordering an old fashioned in the hotel lobby bar in Barcelona. So it's probably marked up anyways.
Probably higher. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was probably like, it might've been like 15 euros. So it's like what, $22 or something.
So it's pretty no different than Hotel X in Toronto or whatever.
No, it's probably the same. But I will just say, and also, okay, I wanted to bring this up. We did a walking tour one of the days, and someone that was actually a previous guest on this show, I'm not going to give away a name yet because I didn't ask permission, but they banged their leg really bad where like they needed stitches, like in the middle of Barcelona. So I went to the hospital with them, and we took a taxi. By the way, the traffic in Barcelona is horrendous. It's worse than even Toronto. It's like crazy. You got to have a scooter or take the subway there. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. Anyways, we go into the first hospital. You know, keep in mind, we're foreigners to them. We come in, they're like trying to understand what we're saying. And she's like, listen, this one's really busy today, emergency. Like, go to this one. It will be much, much faster to get something, right? We're like, okay, fine. So we go to the next one. We show up and they're like, okay, listen, you know, they might have said that we don't have a long wait today, but it's going to be some time. Like, are you guys okay waiting about 25 to 30 minutes before we can see you? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. I thought I was going to be here for 17 hours.
Sounds pretty good. And they were great. And, you know, the person got stitched up and they're doing great and enjoyed the rest of their trip. But it was interesting. So I had like what would it cost to live here? Mm-hmm. What's the healthcare like here, and how quick can it be done, and what does it cost? And I figured that all out, and not in an ideal scenario, but
yeah. I had an uncle that had a episode with his heart in France.
Oh yeah,
and I think he ended up in 10 or 17 days or something in hospital in France, heart surgery in France, as a tourist, all taken care of.
Well, he had insurance.
No, paid for by the government. They're like, we just have healthcare here. Yeah. This was some time ago. This was pre-COVID.
Sure.
But I mean, it was just all, yeah, no problem. We got you.
So anyways, Barcelona is my number one city now. I would go back there a lot. It's got everything. Oh, also, I went to a football game. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that a lot. All right. Anyways, enough of my gallivanting across Europe. I'm back. We're focused on business, and I had a great time.
So instead of lump summing on your mortgage, you spent a bunch of money watching Messi or one of those Ronaldos or one of those guys?
No, neither. Well, no, Messi's not there anymore, but Lewandowski scored a hat trick at the game I went to. That was pretty cool. And they played at the Olympic Stadium because their Camp Nou stadium was still under renovations. There's maybe 15% of this audience that even understood a thing I just said.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
The Barcelona side of that trip, which was 5-star, everything, like crazy experience, flights, everything all in. Yeah, that was probably about $8,500.
Crazy.
Including like business class flights and everything. Like it was well.
You flew business class?
Try to go 6 hours ahead and take a night flight and not fly business class. And by the way, I don't want to come off like a dude. I'll be 33 years old this year. The first time I ever flew business class was a year and a half ago. I've
never sat in the front 10 rows of my life.
But have you gone in a flight for 9 hours overnight?
I mean, I've had some long ones. Sure, I've had some long ones. Why not?
Anyways,
I don't know. I can't do it. I can't spend the money. I looked at it back from New York one time, and they were like $1,500 for 5 hours more. And I was like, $1,500 for 5 hours? Not a chance.
Yeah, I guess it's different if you're doing it on points too.
$300 an hour to be uncomfortable. I'm like, I'll take the $300 an hour. I appreciate that.
Fair. I want to give you credit on something, because we've talked about this a lot, in the fact that a lot of the videos on the internet in the real estate Canadian space that get, let's say, like over 40,000 views are just
we're all going to be the people commenting like, these guys are 10 minutes into this podcast, they haven't talked about real estate yet.
Well, we will. Well, I did. There was real estate happening in Europe, and I told you I'd tell you about my whereabouts at the end of last episode. By the way, last thing I'll say on this, okay, before we move forward, is there's something beautiful.
Tom, yeah. It's your show. You can take it any direction.
It's our show, Stephen. It's our show. There's something beautiful about traveling and having a 6 hour ahead time difference. Because you could, it was a work week. I was still taking calls. My team was very helpful when I was gone, but I was still dealing with work the entire time. Just knowing like your phone doesn't start ringing until minimum like 1 p.m. because no one's up, no one's doing anything. And for you, I was 9 hours ahead of you. So,
You're still texting me at midnight though.
Yeah, it's because the Leafs games were on late, and I was just.
Did you watch them?
I would try to get up and check the scores, but I don't want to talk about them anymore. I'm a Canucks fan now. I'm jumping on the bandwagon.
Yeah, well, jump on. We go out in the second round. That's our style. That's how we roll. Anyway, you were pumping my tires. Get back to that.
Okay, so you put out this video, and I think it was a bit of a throwaway video. You're like, I'm not sure what to talk about this week, and you put out a video going over floor plans. And the first video was condo floor plans, right?
Yeah. Because I'm seeing, I'm having a lot of investors phone and like, hey, this is what I've got locked up, and I want to flip it, or I want to close and then sell it, and flipping taxes and capital gains taxes and all this stuff. So I was like, okay, let's look at what actually makes a good floor plan, because I actually had a client week before, something like that, lock into what I think is probably the best, most common floor plan, and then there's a whole bunch that are absolutely terrible. So as I do with all my videos, put the information out for the people.
And then the people showed up in waves. And that video, as we were recording this, I'm sure you checked it this morning when you woke up because you needed that dopamine hit. Where's it at?
This episode of the Tom Storey Show is brought to you by Realty Ninja. Hey, real estate agents, I bet you didn't get into the real estate industry to try to become a web developer. Realty Ninja will help you build a beautiful website for your business without becoming all techie, because me and Steve are certainly not techie. They'll set up your entire site for you, they'll migrate the content from your current site, and they'll take care of all the back end, switching the domains, all the things that you don't want to do, they'll take care of for you. Their team of in-house designers will make your new site match your current brand and help you stand out from your competitors. Best of all, Realty Ninja offers a free unlimited trial that lets you build out your website, and they do not charge you until you're ready to launch. That's right, they are so confident in their product and that you're going to love the website that you build with them. They will not charge you until it's ready to launch. They don't even take your credit card details. Listeners of the Tom Storey Show will not only get an unlimited trial before you launch, but if you go to realtyninja.com/Tom, you will get 20% off your first year after you launch. A beautiful, functional, and professional website is absolutely a must in today's real estate landscape, and Realty Ninja delivers. So go to realtyninja.com/Tom for 20% off your first year. That's realtyninja.com/Tom. And now back to the podcast.
I think it's 200,000 views this morning.
200,000 views.
And if everything goes well, it'll surpass my mask pull down COVID trucker convoy video.
I commented not on that video, but on the second one you put out, because now you're riding your floor plan wave. I commented on that and I was like, thank you so much for proving that a video that's actually educational and helpful can get a lot of views, and not just complete doom and gloom garbage gets a lot of views. My faith came back for the Canadian real estate market and the YouTube algorithm.
How long until every Canadian real estate YouTuber has a floor plan video?
I'm already working on them. I've got a whole series coming out.
Hey man, I think you should. And I just can't believe the watch time on it. Like, it was pretty crazy.
Because it was
the
long
average
video.
person. The second one I put out about townhouses, the average watch time was 9 minutes.
You were saying too, something weird happened on that first one, where it's like the demographic of people watching, the age was way off what your normal videos are.
Yeah, so it's 50% US views, which is not normal. I'm usually 95% Canadian views. And then,
do we get any US on this podcast? I don't really look.
3 or 4%. Okay. It's small.
Yeah.
But it was more than 50% 50 years or older, which was crazy. And it was funny because I used the term, the older folks, they like, like a formal living area. And everybody's like, you can't call us old. That's offensive. I'm like, all right, boomer, get the heck out of here. Like, if the term old is now offensive, wrong channel, sucker.
Old's a relative term. Old compared to what?
I said age is a virtue. It's not a negative. But anyway, it's so funny because So it actually then it hit Europe a little bit too.
Really?
So now I'm reading the comments, and the amount of people from not in Canada that are concerned about mold in their units is through the roof.
Oh.
Everybody's like, you can't have a bathroom there. What about the mold? What about if you don't have a window? I'm like, we've got perfect ventilation in our condos. Like, we have no problem. I wish people would leave their bathroom vents on more. And then there's people that are like, just like, open concept is garbage. Closed off kitchens is garbage. Like, you can see why there's so many different floor plans, because these people are they just hate each other. Somebody was commenting, I think it was out of Japan, and they were like, you would never have a bathroom door that went into a bedroom.
But wouldn't that just be an ensuite bathroom? Which
yeah, and there's also people like, why are you using this fancy term ensuite? It's just a bathroom. It's just hilarious to see the not hitting the regular channel, but then what folks not paying attention to real estate think about real estate.
Yeah.
Or at least the layout. And it was just all over the map. It was just spread every which way. People that hated island kitchens, people that hated sinks in islands, and people were like angry. People were writing like 3 and 4 sentence comments. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
You struck
what I got planned for next week?
And hey, are you willing to share? Because I think this is interesting for people that make videos or look at YouTubers and like how much money do they make when a video does well. So 200,000 views means how much should YouTube pay you because of that?
So it depends on your CPM, RPM. So people that don't understand how YouTube works, it's you can get paid a different amount depending on what type of ads run. So for instance, I got a friend that does a completely different style, like he does like hot rods and whatever on his channel. And
he eats pepperoni sticks?
A little bit different than that. He does like welding and cars and all sorts of cool stuff. Way more views and all this stuff, but he also has a higher pay per click. I'm assuming because like people that watch his channel probably buy tools, so they have a different ad set, right? He makes about double, but this one is 200,000 views gets me $1,000.
You know, I found out the other day that I wasn't aware of because I pay for YouTube Premium. Is I looked at one of my videos through someone else's computer, and an ad came up for another real estate agent on my video. I didn't. Yeah. I mean, it makes total sense now thinking about it. But I'm like, oh shit, people are just. You don't even have to make your own content. You just run ads on the people that are making content.
No, nobody will ever pick those agents. Have you ever bought anything off of a YouTube ad ever?
I bought some like T-shirts and stuff off of Instagram ads.
Instagram ads, yeah. I've bought off Instagram. I've never bought off of YouTube. So if you're spending money as an agent getting your views viewed on YouTube, you're doing it wrong.
I think it's a waste. You're right. I think it's a waste.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, I'm proud of you for that video, and I think it was helpful. I think anyone that's listening to this podcast that hasn't seen that video, I think it's great. And if you want to see my version of it in a week from now, you can just...
They will be everybody's version of them will be coming soon, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, you've got the form.
Second one didn't do as well. Second one did 15,000 views in the first 2 days, though.
Which is wild to say didn't do as well, because that would have been your best video in the first 2 days in like 6 months. So it's funny how it all works. So our market data keeps coming out, and it keeps showing that the market's doing well. And I actually had a conversation with a coworker yesterday, and he's like, what gives here? Like, it seems like the general thing is still a little bit negative out there, and you know, we don't really know what rates are going to do, and inventory's building for both my market and your market, mostly just condos for us. But month over month, prices keep going up. So is it just going to be like last year, where like we had a first 6 months of strong, and then last 6 months of kind of just like ours went up and then down last year?
Super strange for me, because I think like if your product is good and you have one of those 9 or 10 out of 10s, you're selling for more than ever before.
Ever before?
And pretty close. I mean, I did another video just yesterday, came out on my channel, about how Vancouver condos are higher priced now than they were at the peak of the pandemic spending.
It makes no sense.
It does for Vancouver, though, because Vancouver never really went up as much during the pandy as other times.
They didn't have
right?
the lift. Okay.
Yeah, like when you look at those comparisons of the suburbs got so close in those pricing lines.
Yeah.
And then the suburbs fell off and Vancouver kind of just kept chugging along. So I don't know. It's very strange. The detached market is suffering where I am. Like it's not suffering in price as the stats are coming out.
Right.
But now the agents that were very positive about the market 2 weeks ago are like, I haven't had a showing yet.
Yeah, they
I've been on for 2 weeks and I haven't had a showing. And I'm like, yeah. I actually heard somebody played me a voicemail for another agent, and they were talking about their listings, and it was just like, hey, they were getting feedback. It was feedback for a listing. Hey, why, bring in offers. And he was just like, yeah, man, we've got 11 listings that hit in the last month, and we've had 2 showing requests total.
In the last month.
Now, that agent was either experiencing a very down market or he was prepping for a lowball offer. So I don't know which one it was.
Right.
It could have been both. It would have been pretty good negotiation.
All 11 luxury or way overpriced or something?
No, like weird. If I'm just looking around my neighborhood and there's now 10 to 15 and there hasn't been a detached sale except for one court-ordered sale. Boom, boom, boom. There has not been a detached sale in
Didn't you just put up a detached house in your area? Was it detached?
Townhouse in my area.
Townhouse. And that's still moving?
On fire. That's on fire. Beautiful place.
What price point range is that?
Under $1 million.
Okay. And it's going to sell? Like, I guess I'm not going to ask you that question because you're actively negotiating on it. But you think it's worth around $1 million?
Oh, I don't know. I think we priced it correctly.
Okay.
Right. I think it's all right. So we should be in good shape on it.
You think that will sell by the time this episode comes out? Like in 3 days from now?
Offers for sure.
Yeah.
Sold, whether or not we're not seeing unconditional really. It's not really a thing right now. But
what conditions are people putting in? Just the standard stuff? Financing?
If they're good agents, it's only financing and inspection. If they're lazy agents, they put in disclosure, title, all the other stuff they could do in advance, right?
Right.
Okay. So like you could take the time to go read the documents in advance of your offer, but if you don't think you actually stand a chance at it, you're not going to bother, and you only get it if you get it. So no, it's townhouses are actually still seemingly rocking. So I did this experiment. So I have a listing. We're having trouble selling it. Different listing. We're having trouble selling it, and the market's just kind of falling off. So I did like a search around, and I'm sitting there. Actually, we broke this down on a coach call. And so my whole team's sitting there, and we're just like, this doesn't make sense. Like, why aren't we selling? And there had not been a sale. No, there had been 4 sales in the whole city in the last 30 days. And there was something like 39 listings. Right. So it's a very much, there's just not much moving. And I hate that because it's like, now I can't just go to my seller and just say, hey, if you put it at X, sellers, what do they say? What's the price I got to put on it to get it going? Right. And I'm like, well, with no sales, what?
It's tough.
What is it?
We call it the sell.
You don't know where. But in the last little bit, in the last 6-7 days, the number of new listings coming to the market is starting to slow down, which you would expect as we exit the spring market. And sales are being like, okay. Do you know what I think is really going to be a real big factor that doesn't make any sense to me, but it's just how people feel about the market? When we do see that first interest rate change, the news out there is going to be, oh, interest rates are coming down, we better get in. And it's like so misguided because you already have 1.5% lower interest rates than our 1.25% lower interest rates than that.
I would say, what do you think? At least 80% of Canadians don't.
No idea what's going on. Yeah.
Right.
Do you need insurance? The answer to that question is obviously yes, of course you do. Whether you are a tenant, landlord, or homeowner, you need to insure your property and belongings. And when I insure my investment property, personally, I choose Square One. Square One is affordable online insurance for everyone. If you apply for your Square One insurance policy using the link in the description of the show notes, listeners of the Tom Storey Show can receive $20 off right now, simply by going to squareone.ca/the Tom Storey Show. Square One is no joke. I personally use Square One for my landlord policy on my investment condo. I picked Square One because they were easier to work with than other insurance companies. And when I had an issue with my previous policy coverage in relation to my Strata's coverage, Square One was the insurance company that came up with a solution for my insurance problem at an affordable rate. Online quotes take less than 5 minutes with Square One. Get your home insurance quote today at squareone.ca/the Tom Storey Show and save $20.
So I did I had a client big referral party thing we do every single year. We were giving away some prizes and doing different things. And I was like, oh, okay, let's do a little icebreaker. So I put out a little trivia game about real estate. And you do, like, most of that audience is not the YouTube audience, right? They're like my database. Good.
Right.
And I was asking what I thought was very simple questions. And for instance, I was like, okay, let's start with an easy one. Let's do an icebreaker here. This one should be no problem.
How many square feet are in an acre?
Hey, these are not skill testing questions. Okay. Agents have no idea what that is. Okay. The question I started with was, which one was it? It was, what is the name of the current governor of the Bank of Canada? Now, everybody I know in the world of real estate knows the answer to that question, including probably every single person watching this right now or listening to this.
Most,
right? Not a single person in that room. Like, eventually what happened is my team and the mortgage brokers that were in the room were like, can I answer? Right? Like, none of the actual clients knew. So that's how much they don't pay attention to what's going on. They just know interest rates up, interest rates coming down. That's all they know. And that's where I think if you do see just the sentiment is going to change. The buyer sentiment is going to change when we see that first change. I just don't think it's coming in a month from now.
Because a 25-point decrease on 500 grand is like $15 a month or something, right? That's what this actually means to the market. It's not going to, on a $500,000 mortgage, it's like $15. So
yeah, it's not going to do anything, but it's going to just change the way people feel.
I feel like I should do an entire video on, like, not that it doesn't matter what Bank of Canada does next, but like it shouldn't impact the market, but here's why it will. Because people are going to hear like, oh, rates are going down. It's like, well, no, you could get a 3-year fixed at low 5s right now. Maybe insured 4.99. It's so much lower. We'd have to go down a lot to get anywhere close to where the fixed rates are right now. A lot.
Yeah. So nobody understands. But I am starting to talk to more and more people that are concerned. So did we talk about this before? Like, the people that I think are stressed are not people that bought within the last 3-4 years, 5 years.
Okay.
I think the people that are stressed are the people that are still in their $55,000, $65,000, $75,000 a year jobs. And this is the first renewal.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them are still, they were already at 3.89% or 3.5% from pre-pandemic.
Right.
But now they're looking at 5.5%. And those people have not increased their incomes.
And everything else has gone up around them.
And everything else has gone up around them. And they've got used to spending. And there's lots of people using their houses as piggy banks over those 20 or 30 years. So I think these people have owned their homes for, let's say, 10 or 15 or 20 years. And they've refinanced and bought cars and bought RVs and bought whatever. And they haven't increased their incomes. And now they're getting, because they don't pay attention. They are the people we were just talking about.
Right.
And now they're like, going back to the bank, the bank's like, yeah, you're going to be $1,300 a month higher than you were for the last 4 years, 5 years. And they're like, wait, I can't do that because I'm still making at whatever job $65,000 a year as I was for the last 20 years.
But if they've owned their house for a while, they probably, even if they have to sell, it's not like it's a fire sale. They got a bunch of equity in it. You would, unless they refied at some point, right?
Most of those people have refied, but they still have a ton of equity. So they plan to get down to either zero or very small $100,000 or $200,000 mortgage.
Right.
So the plan is to get out whenever that is and either move out of town or downsize to a townhouse from a detached. And it's just, those are the folks that are stressed though. And it's not the people that bought at the peak. I'm not seeing that. It might be some of the investors that were like, oh yeah, wait a minute, this doesn't cash flow and it doesn't make sense. But I don't really feel that either. Just looking at the listings I have coming on, there are a lot of people that, you know how they're like, oh, that person bought at the peak, now they're selling. Yeah. I do have those people that bought during the pandemic and now they're selling.
At the peak of the pandemic or during the
all over the pandemic. Let's say within the last 3 and 4 years.
Are any of them losing real money, big dollars?
Not yet. And not only that, they're not moving for financial reasons.
Right.
They're not moving because of that. There's job opportunities. There's change of lifestyle. There's retirement, right? They're not moving because, hey, I can't afford this crazy, crazy high payment that I took on silly and thought that I was going to have 1.5% interest rates my whole life. I'm not seeing that part. It's just people moving on. The people that I am worried about are the people that are 55, 60 years old. They're not going to increase their incomes dramatically. And unfortunately, they didn't take the last 20 years to pay off their house. Those are the folks that are going to be in trouble.
But their mortgages can't be that large still.
For us, they're not that large. For their incomes, they're a lot larger than they would like.
Understood.
And then all the other spending issues that they have, right? Like,
sure,
people got really used to, when times are good, that just means people are probably spending beyond their means. Right? Like,
probably.
And then they have the ability to cash out of their increasing, or to pull the equity out of their house to pay for their lifestyle over the past few years. There's lots of that going on.
Steve, I got to ask you a question. What would you think if I told you that someone that I know broke their mortgage within 6 months of signing it?
Are you asking for a friend?
Yeah, my friend Mott Urats, which is my name backwards. Tom Storey.
Tom Storey.
I did it. It's official. I broke.
You made a stupid decision, Tom Storey, when Steve told you not to, and then.
But now you're just going back to that though. So I want to be open about this. I want to tell you the numbers and tell you the penalty and tell you everything that happened and why I did it. I think that would be good.
Okay, so you locked in
October of 2023, which could have not been a worse time to lock into.
Ron said that was something about no lube time or something.
I don't think we can repeat what he said.
Something about a couch.
Yeah. So
literally the highest rates we've seen in the last 25 years.
I have good credit. I had income. I had everything to back it up. Didn't matter. At the time, I got stuck renewing and I took a 3-year fixed at 6.44. It was ridiculous. I was obviously taking my 1 year before that was wrong. I'll give you credit on that. The 1 year before that was at a 4.92 though. So it was like, okay. But at that time when I was going to renew, what would you have done? If I had taken a 5-year, it still would have been at like 6%. What would you have done at that time?
Let's go back.
Okay.
When you took the 1 year.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
No. Okay. But I guess it's just like the carbon argument, right? Like, where's the start date? What are we talking about here, Tom?
Sure.
So, you would probably have gone back to 4.79% on a 5-year the year before and been very happy. So that's what Steve would have done. So I guess here's one thing that we've kind of all taken for granted. I've seen this all the time about banks. People don't realize that the bank's year end is, I think it's either October 31st or November 30th, one or the other. And around that time, they jack up the rates because they don't need to lend any more money. They just want to pad the books. So if you want to take this high rate mortgage, great, but we don't really need to sell more mortgages right now.
Yeah.
So that was probably actually the biggest mistake, is signing into that too early, because by December, those rates had dropped down to like 509.
I'm aware. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
How I just got, it was the worst possible time that I could have done my renewal.
But as a like public service announcement, try not to have your renewal, try not to take the rate they offer you in October and November.
Fair.
As a rule of thumb, right? But Tom, you have totally redeemed yourself.
Okay, so let's go over the math here. I'm just going to give you guys all the numbers. I don't want to hide anything here, okay? So the mortgage that I had on my house was a shade over $1 million. Steve, I'm a millionaire, a mortgage millionaire, okay?
A debt millionaire.
A debt millionaire. And I mean, this will probably give it away, but like I have 45% equity in my house. So you can do the math if you want. So yes, that's a huge number. I've worked my ass off for 10 years to buy a house in an area I really wanted. I put 35% down when I bought it. Then I did lump sum payments. And so it's like, it's gotten to the point that I'm like, okay, I live in a dual income house. I feel like I don't have to explain myself, but I know for some people it's like, holy shit, you have $1 million mortgage, but I want to at least give you some background on it. Okay. So my payment was from when I renewed, it was like $6,500 a month. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm like, okay, I can afford this. I don't like this. But it's my house. It's my house. What am I going to do about it? Like, what am I supposed to do? Within months, the rate dropped on 3-year fixed significantly. It went from 6.44 to, I'm still waiting to get the exact rate I'm getting on the new one, so I don't want to say it, but it's going to be somewhere between like 5.10 and 5.30. So it's somewhere in that range. And moving over my mortgage to this new institution is going to save me on a monthly basis about $700 a month in mortgage payments. But not just that, I should have written this down, but just the interest alone, I'm saving a ton of interest per month. So it's like, okay, do that math. That makes sense. And then there is this thing that comes into play, which we all love, is well, what's it going to cost to break a mortgage? You're like less than 6 months into. So it was like $16,000 was the penalty. Okay. So I'm looking at this going like, Tom, you absolute idiot. Why did you get yourself in this position? Are you about to hand them 16 grand for already paying them interest for like, and then I do the math. I go like, okay, if I stay with the current mortgage that I have over the next 3 years that I have, I would pay about $25,000 more than I would have if I moved to this new mortgage at the new payment. So it's like pay $16,000 to get $9,000 in savings, right? Now I know there's an opportunity cost to money and all that kind of stuff, but I'm like, okay, this kind of makes sense. Now, what I didn't realize could have happened is that $700 difference in payments, that was incorporating my mortgage penalty into the new mortgage. So that was like, I could have just paid the cash and gotten out, or you could just tack it on, which again, I know isn't like the right thing for everybody. But so I don't have to pay that up front. It's just tacked on. And even it being tacked on, I'm still saving $700 a month. And now I'm starting the process as of honestly this afternoon on moving my cottage mortgage over as well. Yeah. Because so what I've come to understand here,
and there's no penalty there though. There's no penalty on the cottage mortgage.
There's 3 months interest.
Yeah, so that's nothing.
I mean, it's still a penalty. It's still
a lot of money.
But okay, after all that, okay, I save $700 a month. That's something. That's something. Mm-hmm. My rate is lower for the next 3 years. right, than it was, way lower than it was. And it seems that the math is, if it's 1% lower rate, at least from what you had, it's usually worth paying the penalty to get out of it.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be. So I had this conversation with my personal mortgage broker, and he's like, the problem is, like, if it's not low enough, it's not worth paying the penalty. And if it goes too low, like if it drops to 2%, then your penalty gets too big to make it worth it. So you really have to like watch really close. If you're in a situation right now where you're like, I'm on a 6.5% mortgage and the bank's offering you 5.5%, now's probably the sweet spot where it does make sense.
Right.
If you wait till it drops to 4.5%, you might get a $75,000 penalty and you might be absolutely screwed. So be super careful on
how
that.
long you wait for it. Right. That's interesting.
Like, so for instance, let's say a year from now, those rates drop to 4.5%. You might want to
break mine again.
You might actually want to do it again, because think about it. Like, if you increase your principal by 10 grand, but then in the overall term of the loan, you end up saving 15 or 20 grand, obviously it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So you really have to watch those numbers and see how they go. I really am interested. I got my mortgage coming up in a year. So
there was a wild disparity between the 3-year money and the 2-year money. Like,
I think you meant discrepancy, but okay.
Yeah, sorry. Whatever.
Should I wear this forwards, or is like, should I Fred Durst this?
No, forwards.
I look like somebody from a strange country right now.
It just feels like it doesn't quite fit.
I need like a tassel on the top. It doesn't fit my head. My head is so big. People don't understand this. You know, when you get the snapbacks, I get the last button.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Like, I know you're probably the other way. You look like a 4-year-old, like your dad did it up.
Your ego is as large as your actual head is, eh? We've figured that out.
Yeah, my head is big for a reason, like reality and online persona. Well, I'm glad you are.
I feel really
money.
I feel it's like a win. It's like I'm like, okay, well, it's not a win because I got screwed, but it's going to make a difference.
Does it feel like a win after you get kicked in the balls and the pain goes away? Does that feel better?
Because the pain.
Well, let me line you up for another kick then.
Hey, so maybe when rates go to 4 point something in a year from now, I can break it again. And it's still going to make sense. And I'm just going to play this silly game. Who knows? But I wanted to share the real numbers with people to tell you, like, I guarantee there's somebody listening to this that is in a bad situation. And even with my cottage mortgage, it's a static variable, right? So I was like, well, if I break it.
How far was your amortization out? 75,000 year amortizations for cottages in Ontario.
It got, I'll tell you what my actual amortization was on the cottage. It was 33 years.
If you are a real estate agent in Ontario, you know all about TRESA and RICO's information guide, but your clients don't. So we are excited to introduce you to TRESAvideo.ca. It's a dynamic tool designed to help you simplify the complexities of TRESA while explaining RICO's information guide to your clients. TRESA Video is more than just a visual aid. It's a strategic investment in your brand's integrity and your client's education. Tom and his team use their own custom branded video that they purchase from TRESAvideo.ca in communications with their clients. Simply embed a link in your email signature, upload your video to YouTube, place it on your website, share it via text, or integrate your custom branded video into email campaigns using any CRM. Check out TRESAvideo.ca or click the link below. Quickly upload your branding and instantly elevate your trust and transparency with your clients. That's TRESAvideo.ca. TRESA video.ca.
I was too scared to look for a long time.
And you owned it for 2 years?
No, almost 3.
Almost 3. So it pushed
in
out
the
6
cottage,
years.
based on the renos that we did on this, like I've got almost 50% equity in this. So I'm not in a bad spot.
Justify it however you want. Justify it however you want, Tom. I'm just saying. So you did push out. It did negatively amortize, but not to like the million-year thing.
No, I think I started with 30 on this one anyways, because I put a lot down when I bought it. So it got to 33.
And then when you go to 30, it should be at 27. Now it's at 33. When you when you adjust this now, I'm sure you have to go back to 30 years because you're going to switch institutions.
Correct. And I haven't done that yet, but I believe the payment difference would be about $450 a month difference on the if I did it now, and it goes back to 30, and the rate's lower, obviously.
So what are you going to do with this now extra? If I did the calculations
like
on this real quick,
well, it's more than $1,000 a month.
12 to 13-ish $1,000 per year.
I already spent it. I spent it on my trip. But I think you'd actually be very proud of me. I've taken a lot of steps forward in the last little bit and looking at everything on the table, figuring out net worth, being hyper obsessed with understanding everything, what's going on here, building the business things out in different ways, and just laser focusing on, like, I'm not, once I break the cottage one and move it over, I'm also doing a lump sum down even before that will bring the payment even down further than we even talked about. I haven't run the numbers on that yet. But I'm just, for a long time, and maybe this was just because the market was doing so well, like I was buying things and making good money on them, like places I was living in, like really good money, and then selling it, moving to the next one. I didn't care how much mortgage debt I had because it was like the best leverage of all time. Like leading up, it was.
Yeah. Anything under 4.5% is free money. People didn't realize that, right? Like we went through 10 years of free money, 3.5. I don't want this 3.09 interest rate. Yeah. That's a little high. How many times did you have that in 2018, 2017? It's like, get out of here. Get out of my way. That I want to go through this, Tom, because you take your extra $12,000 a year and you spend it on vacations and nice watches.
Let's call it life experience. The watches hold their value, so enough of that.
Car payments that you have.
I don't know if this is just Ontario, but I've been told, this is not advice for anybody else.
Okay.
If you buy, there's a huge government tax credit in this calendar year for EV cars, but they don't have to be 100% EV. It can be like the gasoline and electric. So I may be buying one of those this year.
Car.
No, not another car. It's replacing. No, you're spinning what I'm trying to say.
Correct.
Go on.
So spinning what you're trying to say. That's my job as a real estate agent. Got to spin every situation.
Oh yeah.
No. Okay. So I ran the numbers and I was like, okay, a lot of people spend on a lot of things. A lot of people have car payments. I don't have a car payment. A lot of people do vacations. I generally don't vacation.
I don't have
every
a vacation.
5 years. I don't have a vacation. Once every 5 years on a plane is enough for me. And you give me shit and it's fine and whatever, and I give you crap.
No, but the YouTube comments agree with you, by the way. I'm looking. They're not. It's not that they're not agreeing with me, but they're very much.
Turns out I got to change my damn strategy then, because if the YouTube comments are agreeing with me, I'm doing something wrong. Okay, maybe I'm going to have to start going on more vacations. But I broke down the numbers.
Okay.
So I bought my house in 2013.
Okay.
And in 2013, I bought it for $701 and I put down 20%. So my mortgage was $560. I'm going to cough on my throat here. Oh, gross. Let me take a sip of water. $560 was my mortgage.
Your mortgage amount when you bought your house was $560. Okay. All right.
Correct. Okay. So where would it be today, given all the interest rates and, where do you think my balance should be today if I just made my minimum payments?
Okay. Tell me again the year that you bought it.
2013. I want to say my first rate in this house was
11 years ago.
3. I did all the math on it. Actually,
was it a 25-year AM when you bought it, or what was it when you bought it? What was the original amortization?
Is this really going to change your answer that much? I do not have the sheet in front of me.
5 years. It could.
Yeah, that's true. I believe I did a 30-year, but I re-ammed actually at one point as well. because I did change lenders.
But during this period of time, you re-ammed, but you never refied or took money out, right?
Never.
Oh, okay. All right. Don't be offended. Line of credit?
Yeah, I got a HELOC. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, so I guess here's what I did. So I went in, I had 5 years, first 5 years, I think at TD. And then what I wanted was the ability to put a HELOC on. So in 2018, I switched to Manulife and put a Manulife 1 on it. So there's a HELOC portion. And then there's the balance on the mortgage portion as well. But all this is in the weeds. Give me a guess. It's just going to be a guess. Where do you think
if I just paid my mortgage?
What should my balance be now?
Well, if you're 10
if I owned a property for 11 years.
If you're 11 years into a 30-year life of a mortgage and you started at 560, you said?
Yeah.
I don't know, 3 something? 3.
The balance should be, when this was a month ago that I calculated this. The balance should be $417,000.
Oh, wow. It's even higher than I thought. Okay.
Yeah, because you don't pay off much in the beginning.
Yeah,
right?
in the beginning, it's all interest. Yeah.
Yeah. So because I put on the HELOC, when I switched to the HELOC, what I did was I put I want to say 300 grand or something of the remaining balance on a mortgage and then the rest on a HELOC. So then I got the ability, when you do commission sales and you can pay yourselves, you can dividend yourself, so you can have all these different tax structures. You can get more money into your name in certain amounts of time. And you might end up with lump sums. Mm-hmm. So I use the HELOC as a tool to not pay interest. Even though the interest rate is higher, I can pay it down faster. And then, for instance, you can lump sum, you can do all sorts of stuff. So as of today, for sacrificing things like, I drive a $36,000 paid off truck. I don't go on vacations.
Isn't it crazy how you think saying you drive a $36,000 truck is like I drive a cheap truck?
That was the sticker price on the truck when I bought it.
No, I'm just saying, like, it's crazy, even car prices, that's what you consider to be cheap.
Yeah. That is actually strange.
Right.
So I was talking to a Randy, actually, who's been on the show, and he was saying that
he is this show. He's our biggest episode ever.
He is. Yeah, totally. Most of our views. He was going through the exemptions when people do actually go into bankruptcy, and there's a $12,000 exemption. So you get 12 grand of your equity no matter what. Yeah. And then for a car, you get 5 grand no matter what, because they can't take all your money away. Otherwise you can't have any chance, right? The exemption for a car is still $5,000. He's like, it's been $5,000 since 1997.
I feel like that's like most things. They don't adjust it correctly.
Right. So it should be like $25,000 to go get yourself a car. What car could you possibly get yourself to work in right now for $5,000?
In 1995,
I'm assuming you
Volkswagen Cabrio.
Yeah, that needs $15,000 worth of work.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, I used all those tools, paid it down. I've done multiple lump sums over the years. And today, Tom, I'm proud to say that it's $228 outstanding balance.
228. And if you continue on your path,
$190,000 in 10 years plus.
Yeah.
Plus, let me pat myself on the back here. Plus, I took out my 20% down payment when interest rates were low, put it on the condo and paid that off as well using all of this stuff. So the condo owes like $350 and the house owes like $228.
You should have bought 3 condos that year.
I should have bought 3 condos that year, and then I could pay my fair share in capital gains this year, which didn't go into the budget, by the way.
Okay, so do you know more on that? Because it's not in the budget. So is this June date still a real thing? I get they're doing it for political reasons. They want to have the other parties vote against it so then they can use that as ammo. But
yeah,
where are we on this? Is it now happening, or it's just floating
It's
around?
not yet. So there's still, I actually read an article on this this morning. So all of the major business associations in Canada were like, please don't do this. Like all of them, like the investment firms.
Did I tell you you got an email about it?
No.
A listener of this show, I'm not going to say
the name. Krista Freeland didn't say like.
She didn't email me. A listener of the show just basically said what you're talking about is true, and join this Facebook group and see what we're all doing. So I joined the group and I'm watching what they're doing. It's interesting.
Oh, is that the doctor one you sent me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. So like all these, but you think of it like, for instance, oh, this only affects 1% of Canadians. Cool.
Bulk.
All those guys that own Subway franchises, that own Menchie's, if that's still a thing, like all these people, they try and sell their business, right? They try and sell their franchise that they've been like a franchise business is not a good business. It's buying a job basically. But if you do get to a spot where you can sell that and you've done a good job, now you're the one that's getting smashed. The business people are the people that are getting absolutely smashed, as well as things like doctors. I mean, my retirement's going to be significantly because all of my, I don't get anything. I don't get anything. The only money I get in retirement is whatever I save during the time I work. So all of these things, I'm looking now at like the money that's invested within my corporation.
Yep.
And I'm going, okay, so I just put it in the bank then and make GICs. That's the better move right now. So I should not invest in the Canadian economy. I should not buy stock in Canadian companies, which I do, by the way. I actually am like 95% invested in Canadian companies.
What you should do is continue to add value to your house, because that is the only tax-free vehicle that we really, I mean, you got TFSA and whatever, but that's it. So it's like, I'm doing a bunch of rentals on my house right now. I didn't, we talk about this. Like, I haven't been living in my house in 2 months. I'm going crazy. I can't wait to move back in. I'm moving back in next week. I'm happy to spend the money there because at least I know I'll get it back in the future. It's my money. Now, the money I spent was after tax dollars, but, you know, investing into my property, it's like, why would I buy now? Why, if I was living in my house, I had money in the bank, I'm like, you know what, I want to buy an investment and I don't want to go down the stock. Let's say it's going to be real estate. Would I buy a condo and deal with a tenant, or would I just figure out a way to build a laneway house on my property, which in Toronto is still, it's still one deed. It's not a separate, as long as it's like less than 50% of the floor area.
Maybe we should be taking the other stance on this though, because like really, if they are squashing investment and investment properties, that should be good for us in theory, right? Because they're going to have a lot more people buying and selling their principal residences.
I mean, yeah, but
I mean, except for the fact that the government is trying to buy everything and make government housing everywhere, which, you know, works super well.
Is government housing as bad as we all think it is? Is there any benefit? Can you see any?
The problem I have with, sure, I think there's benefit to people that can't afford. Absolutely. There's benefit to everything. But the more you promote something, the more you invest in something, the more of it you get. Right? So, for instance, BC has done this great thing where they hand out free drugs to every addict in the downtown east side. What do we get? We get more drug addicts on the downtown east side. So if you invest in something, if you put money towards something, you're going to get more of that thing. And then, so do we want more people living in government housing? I would suggest we probably don't. We probably want to get them into their own housing. So we should do things that help them get into their own housing so they can have their own equity. And then, like everybody always says about government anything, nobody actually minds paying their taxes. Nobody does. If they think there's value in it, if they think it's not just wasted, there's absolute waste going on everywhere because there's no one holding the biggest, greediest corporation of them all accountable, which is the levels of government, right? So that's where, I mean, should there be more social housing? Probably. Should there be more purpose-built rentals in cities? I would assume so. But should we be encouraging that? I don't think so.
Because the tent situation in Toronto is the worst I've ever seen it. Like,
yeah, Vancouver's getting better, actually.
Well, you guys you had it. It was more of an issue for you before it was an issue for us.
Yeah.
But so I was driving by on Adelaide where it becomes Eastern. We can get into the DVP. People in Toronto will know what I'm talking about. And beside the dog park, and there's just tents everywhere. And there's 3 cop cars and 2 ambulances. And it's like something bad had happened in there. And in downtown, right, Spadina and Wellington, my dog is not happy about us going over.
Are you sicking your dog on people trying to pitch tents in your front yard right now?
No, it makes me so sad. And then the people that there think that that's a better option than going to a shelter. It's such a tough thing. And then it's like, if I spend $1 million on my condo over here, do I want to look out the window every day at tents? But then the people living there are in such a terrible situation, and then the city's in this really tough spot. It's like, did
you ever think 10 years ago we would have a single tent city in the entire country rather than like every city being a tent city? Like, you never thought 10 years ago, 2014, there's no chance anybody ever thought that would happen. But we've invested in that being okay. And it's just not okay, right?
I can see it from both sides. It's just so sad. But I can understand, like, how are we allowing this too? How's this allowed to happen?
The fact that, whichever side of the argument you're on, if you're on the pull yourself up by your bootstraps side, or if you're on the we should house these people side, whichever way it is, having people living outside is not the answer.
I agree.
Right? That is not the thing. So the problem is there's so much compassion for these folks that, well, you can't actually force them into a better situation. So then you're going to let them live in this terrible situation in the name of compassion. That's not good either.
But a lot of it too is not just that. Like, there's other things in play here. A lot of it is drug addiction and like terrible.
It's 99.9% drug addiction. It's not too many people have trouble with actually housing, as opposed to if they're spending the money on whatever else they're spending their money on.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to end on a
Aren't we chipper?
But
go Canucks go.
I mean, go Canucks go. I'm a bandwagoner now. I'm jumping on over from the East Coast. The Leafs did to me what they always do to me, and I feel no pain. I'm just numb at this point. It's okay.
Yeah. Don't worry. Leafs are king of going out in the first round, and the Canucks are king of going out in the second round. So we are really good at it. So the interesting point, if the Canucks should make it through to the Western Conference final, they have never
they'll be
lost
a Canadian team.
Yeah.
Sorry, say that again?
They've never lost a Western Conference final.
They only lose in the Stanley Cup.
They lose in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup every single time. Yeah. So,
well, it's nice that a Canadian team will be in the Final Four. That's exciting. So either you guys or Edmonton. So either way, I'll be kind of happy about it.
Yeah. I mean, the people of Edmonton need something, right?
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
I was waiting for you to make your Edmonton.
Like in Vancouver, we're kind of like, Canucks are out. And then they're like, oh, wait, weather's great now. Let's go. Bye. See you later.
Right.
In Edmonton, they're like, we're still in Edmonton.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody.
Oh.
I hope, Steve, I hope you figured things out since we started recording this and you're not in trouble on this beautiful Sunday morning.
Do you want to, this is late now. So if my wife happened to listen to this, she's probably already discovered what's going on today. I said to my kids, I'm like, so what should we get Mom for Mother's Day? Mm-hmm. They both look at me. They're like, we've both got her something. What are you talking about? Like, we've been working at school all week on our projects for Mom. What the hell are you talking about? I'm like,
Okay. Hey, next week we have a guest. The week after we have a guest. The week after that we have a guest. And oh baby, these are some good guests. So go Canucks. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.